So here we are again, having another bit of a trimming exercise with the Spectre. On the last flight I found that the autopilot was having trouble maintaining a steady course home in the wind, and I ended up landing about 1.5 kilometres away when I ran out of battery. So I've increased the pitch and roll gain controls on the autopilot to see what impact that has on its behaviour, whether it helps or not. I've also increased the throws on the transmitter to give me a bit more control. So I'm not using the goggles, I'm just flying line of sight by eye and flipping it into return to home to see what it's actually doing. So the launch is fine, it's just a little bit twitchier with the increased control throws. So basically what I'm doing is getting up to a reasonable altitude, and I'm about to flick the switch to put it into return to home mode, which I do, so it levels out. So the stabiliser is obviously working. Now it's worked out where home is, and it's gone over at a very steep angle to get there, so that's obviously the maximum gain having an effect. What the OSD is showing me though is that it's not heading for home. Home is off to the left. If you look at that little yellow box, the arrow there shows the direction of home and the distance to it. So at the moment the plane is travelling east, and the home is to the north, so the distance is just increasing, and I'm watching, and the plane's starting to get smaller and smaller. So in the end I flip it back into manual and start to bring it back while I can still see what the attitude of it is. So on this attempt I flick it into return to home while I'm heading straight for home, and it immediately takes a big steep turn to the right. It starts heading off east again. I'm not sure what the fascination with east is, but it's I decide to let it go again to see if it's going to turn. I'm ready with the switch to switch back into manual, and if it starts flying too far. But it actually does turn again quite dramatically at about 200 metres and starts heading back home, which is what it's supposed to do. What it's supposed to do is do a 50-metre circle when it arrives at home, so as that distance clocks down, so it's gone over home now, so it should go 50 metres and then turn. So we're well past that, and it's about 200 it decides to turn again. And it starts flying virtually southwest, coming up on home now, but it's not flying directly over home, it's flying to one side of it. But at least it's going in the right direction. But it's well past it, so we're 300 metres past it, 400 metres past it before it turns and starts coming back again. So not the behaviour I'm expecting, but as I said, I've got the gain set to max, so it's really sort of an experiment. At least I know that it will go into home, so I take it out of return to home mode and go back to manual. So this is another test. I'm flying away from home, I'm 100 metres away, flipping it in, and it immediately turns back, starts heading straight for it, which is good. So it's coming up on home now, so it's flying pretty well over home. See how far it goes. So it's flying easterly again for some reason or other, so it's 200 metres past, and now it turns, but it's well over in the east, and that's behind where I'm standing and where the video receiver antennas are, which is why I'm getting the video breakup. So it's turned now and it's heading west, and over 200 metres, coming up to 300 metres, and it's starting to get very small, and I actually at this point lose the plane against the sky, so I don't know what it's doing. And I dived for the goggles, and by the time I put them on, it's turned and it's coming back towards the flight box, which is great. So I'm happy that it's working, but I'm not happy about the erratic points at which it decides it's going to come home. And at this point I noticed the voltage up in the top is at 5.4 volts, and I'm thinking, well, it can't be 5.4 volts, the motor wouldn't be going around. So there's something odd happening there, but I decided, well, I better get this thing down on the ground and check it out. I suspect it's to do with some changes I've made to the OSD. I've probably clicked something I shouldn't have clicked. But so the plane's coming back. It's gone over home, and it's turned and coming back. So it's flying straight down the strip, and I decided, well, I'll take the goggles off and land it manually. So I'm taking the goggles off, expecting to see the plane turning, and at this point I realise, oh no, it's not going to turn. And I'm trying to get the goggles back on, and I just get them on in time to see me flying through this field of trees. So it's down and it's still transmitting video, though it's obviously blocked by trees, but it's good to see that it's at least in condition to still transmit. So here's the footage of that from the Mobius camera on the front, to give you a clearer idea of how it went in. So it takes a while to review the video and figure out the general area where the plane's gone in, and Trevor, my model hunter de jour, and I head up the hill to retrieve it. So I'm a couple of 100 metres down the hill, waving my locator beacon around to see if I can get a signal from the plane. This is the first time I've actually remembered to put the beacon in the plane, so I'm quite interested to see if it works.
You want me to bring it down? I'm just picking it up from here. It's just under this tree, about 3 metres from me. I'll see if I can find it. All right.
So I'm about 100 metres away, and I've just picked up the first signal on the locator receiver. So I'm tracking it up, even though Trevor's already spotted it. I'm persisting with the use of the toy.
Well, look at that, I mean.
So the locator gives a LED and a audible indication when it gets close to the model.
Tree. I am so fucking pleased to see that plane, mate. You've lost too many.
Well, he's not wrong about that, but I'm guessing it's probably not the last one I'm going to lose. So the plane's still fine. Physically, there's no damage done to it. The Speedy was actually conked out on it, so I'll need to fit another one of those. But as far as the prank's concerned, well, that was just bad management of the goggles and the eyesight. But the real problem is the autopilot. I need to do some more work on that. I suspect it's probably had the gyros knocked around from the last couple of prangs it's been in, and I need to reset the home and obviously tame down those gains a bit. But yes, it'll be interesting the next flight. But we will persist.